In an organization with a robust and healthy culture, teams are characterized by collaborative behavior. On the other hand, when an organization's culture is toxic, the behavior of its members towards each other will be fundamentally competitive. This will be expressed in issues like a dysfunctional emphasis on silos, meetings run in the spirit of win-lose by participants, and an excessive CCing in email interactions. Once again, it's the intent of the individual that accounts for the culture of teams either being competitive or being collaborative. Team members of collaborative teams deliberately set each other up to succeed. In our previous discussion, we concluded that a person establishes harmony with those around them when they act based on what they can give. One of the expressions of this harmony is that the team that such an individual participates in becomes more harmonious. If one considers any successful sports team, for example, like a soccer team, it becomes apparent that most of the work that happens on the field is not about somebody scoring. It's about somebody trying to set somebody else up to score. This suggests that the spirit of being there to give is expressed in how members of the team deal with each other. The degree to which each member of the team is willing to set their colleague up to succeed and make them the star is the degree to which you have a team. When each member plays to be the star themselves, one no longer has a team, one has a herd of cats. It's important to bear in mind that the intent to give is not about being nice, it is about being appropriate. If, for example, a hungry child asked you for food, then giving would mean to give the child food. If, on the other hand, you were a strapping young man and saw an old lady being mugged for a handbag, then giving, in this instance, would mean beating up the thug. While in both of these cases your intent was to give, the behavior that you evidenced in the two interactions is actually contradictory. In the case of the hungry child, your behavior was kind and gentle. In the case of the thug, your behavior was violent and confrontative. This suggests that being there to give requires sometimes to be kind, and we can refer to that kindness as generosity, and sometimes it requires you to be confrontative, and we can refer to that as courage. This suggests that being here to give does not always mean being nice. It means being appropriate or acting consistently with either the generosity or the courage that's appropriate in the situation that you're in. Where giving is about acting consistently with generosity or courage, with the generosity or courage that's appropriate in the situation that you're in, then taking is about getting one's logic wrong. If the hungry child asks you for food and you slap the child, we would not accept your explanation that you were being courageous. If you grabbed the bag, on the other hand, from the old lady and gave it to the thug, we would not be convinced that if you said in that instance that you were being generous. We would think you were being cowardly. This suggests that when the situation that you're in requires you to be generous and you act in a so-called courageous way, you're not being courageous, you're being selfish. I mean, it requires you to be courageous and you act in a so-called generous way, you're not being generous, you're being cowardly. Now, let us now consider what that means with generosity and courage means as a member of a team. It's important to bear in mind that of the two elements of giving, generosity and courage, generosity is actually the primary element. If a person is here to give, it is likely that their primary engagement with others will be kind and generous. And only where necessary, it'll be confrontative and courageous. Being generous with colleagues as a team member, it would mean to act in the spirit of making your colleague the star. It's in the first instance to affirm the colleague. This person would establish the strengths of their colleague and would, where appropriate, point those strengths out to others and indeed try and solicit those strengths from their colleague. Further to this, that as we indicated before, a key behavior that demonstrates the intent to give is listening. To listen, one must be able to suspend one's agenda for the agenda of the other. A team member who is there to make their colleague the star would not compete for airtime with that colleague and would intervene to allow the colleague to be heard if necessary. Now, turning now to this idea of being courageous with colleagues, what is further true about a team member who is there to make the colleague the star is that they would have the courage to give the colleague feedback where it would be appropriate and helpful for them to receive such a feedback. I mean, even if it's the case where the colleague didn't really want to hear what was being said. While the conversation that ensues from this might be robust and heated, the courage that may be required is never an excuse to abrogate the primary requirement of giving, namely generosity. One gives feedback with the intent to be helpful, not with the intent to hurt. Too often one finds people excusing blatantly rude behavior on the basis that they were just being honest. Oh, I'm just being honest. Honesty is never an excuse for discourtesy. Now, further to that, there's a relationship between giving and seeing things as they are. If giving or acting consistently with generosity and courage, or the generosity and courage that's appropriate in the situation that you're in, if that's what giving means, then you can describe that giving as giving each situation its due. And this is really about how one acts in the world in terms of the outward. You cannot act appropriately, however, outwardly if you haven't acted or praised the situation properly, which suggests that being appropriate is based on another skill, which is a reflective skill, which is about seeing things as they are. So seeing things as they are and giving each situation its due enable each other. They set each other up. Now, if we say that giving its situation its due has these two elements of generosity and courage, then it has to be true that seeing things as they are must also have two corresponding inner equivalents. The inner equivalent of generosity is gratitude. To be generous means to give away. If I give something to someone in the spirit of making an investment, my action can't be seen as generous. When I'm grateful, I recognize that I have received in excess of my due, which makes it easy for me to give away. Thus, my gratitude enables my generosity. The truth of this is evident when one considers the effect on one's action when you are resentful, which is the opposite of being grateful. When I'm resentful, I do not want to give anybody anything because I'm convinced that I'm owed. They should be giving to me. Resentment is therefore the opposite of gratitude. Just like one's gratitude enables your generosity, therefore also, so too your generosity enables your gratitude. If you only give in the spirit of making an investment, you will assume that when somebody is giving to you, whatever they're giving, they're doing it in the same spirit, in the spirit of making an investment. You'll be incapable of seeing that they were giving to give away, which will therefore not produce gratitude on your part. Now, on the contrary, you're likely to be suspicious. You would think, what do they want from me? This suggests that people who are generous with their team colleagues are also appreciative of them. The fact that they affirm that their colleagues give to them enables them to be generous with their colleagues. In fact, it is precisely because they are grateful to their colleagues that creates the conditions where their colleagues will give to them. There is nothing more pleasurable than giving to somebody who is truly appreciative of what you are giving. And on the contrary to that, there's nothing more distasteful than giving to somebody when their resentment makes you feel that they're entitled to what you're giving. Further to this, the inner equivalent of courage is trust. I can only learn that I can trust my colleague when I take a risk with that person and that person acts in such a way as to vindicate the trust that I've put in them. The risk I take, therefore, enables me to earn the trust in that person. Conversely, once I've earned some trust in that person, it is easy for me to take a risk with them and to act courageously. This suggests that my trust enables my courage and my courage enables my trust. If I cannot trust the person to do what they should do, then the only recourse I have is to control them. Controlling them means that they will experience that I'm trying to make sure that I get from them what I want. I'm trying to take something from them. There is a difference between having something taken from you and giving something. People resist being manipulated. When people feel taken from, they stop giving. Now, gratitude is the key to everything we've said so far. The elements of gratitude and generosity are orientated towards the past. When I'm grateful for what has happened. Trust and courage are orientated forward to the future. I trust things will not go wrong. I don't run away as the enemy comes over the hill. I behave courageously. This suggests that of the 4 elements of gratitude and generosity, trust and courage, gratitude is the key that enables the rest. If, as a member of a team, I'm grateful, in other words, I recognize that I've been given in excess of my due, then it is easy for me to give away, or to be generous. Further, should I look at the past and recognize that I've received in excess of my due, in other words, that I cannot account for my current good fortune on the basis of my own ingenuity, then it is easy for me to trust, to assume that things will probably go well in the future. After all, if I recognize that things have gone well in the past, possibly despite me, I can assume that they'll go well in the future, and therefore I can trust. The cycle of gratitude, generosity, trust, and courage is the basis on which any relationship is developed, not least of which within teams. Teams are built incrementally. If in their interaction with other members of the team, a team member starts to act consistently with the elements of gratitude, generosity, trust, and courage, they introduce an adhesive which over a period of time starts to produce the stickiness and cohesiveness of the team. The stickiness presents itself as a spirit of collaboration that manifests in the team as effectiveness, as well as people working pleasurably together. The most powerful of these elements is gratitude and appreciativeness. If, on the other hand, a team member presents a sense of resentment towards their colleagues, they will manifest selfishness, distrust, and cowardice towards their colleagues, which will, over a period of time, produce a failing team, with members that are basically competing with each other. Such a team will not hold together, it will fall apart. The intent of each individual in the team has this effect. It can either be an adhesive that binds the members, or it can be a solvent that dissolves the bonds between the members. These adhesive or solvent effects are at play continuously, irrespective of the organizational context the team is operating in or how the team is led. These effects are also manifested and iterated or countermanded in every interaction between members of the team. Further to this, a particularly authentic person, one who is truly unconditional with the contribution they make, will start to incrementally build a bias to health in the team. This is because, as we've observed previously, that to act on what you can give makes you powerful, and to act on what you get makes you weak. This holds true for any person in the team, even the most junior. This suggests that the giving of the individual accounts for both personal excellence and team excellence, and is at the heart of collaboration. This intent of the individual to give produces the collaboration, which is the hallmark of healthy cultures, and can be accounted for independently in from how the team is led, or indeed the organizational context that the team is in. It is possible to have a healthy team and a culture operate in an otherwise dysfunctional organization. Indeed, if one has worked in a large organization, you'll recognize that this is true. Just as it is possible to have a dysfunctional team in an otherwise healthy organization, it's also possible to have a healthy team in an otherwise dysfunctional organization. It is, however, possible to lead a group of people in such a way that would develop the intent of the individual to contribute. Just as it is possible to create an organizational context which will encourage contribution.